Hey y'all, welcome to Life on Goldman Road. I am Brenda if you're new, and today we're going to talk a little bit about sourdough starters. Now, y'all have met Dorothy. Dorothy is growing, and I really don't know if I'm doing right. I have read a whole lot of information on potato flake potato flake sourdough starter. That's what Dorothy is. She is a potato flake based sourdough. I thought it was going to be really simple to find a starter, like instructions of how to make her from scratch, and then get into the feeding process. And I have researched a lot. And the more I research, the more I get confused. Now, probably what I'm going to need to do is go back to the lady that gave me Dorothy and have a little chat. Because I'm just not sure that I'm proceeding correctly. You see, I have hurriedly written notes the morning that I got Dorothy. And there were other things going on, and there was just, it was a lot. And I hate taking notes. I don't take good notes. I listen, and then I usually go back. And this is something you can't do that. So my note taking is lacking in this subject. So what I have read, and there are so many sourdoughs out there. You have stiff sourdough, you have the potato flake sourdough, you have the Amish friendship bread. It's just, there's a lot to take in when you start talking about sourdoughs. Now, I have my Kindle here, and just quickly, I am going to let you know what I have found. So this recipe is very similar to Dorothy, and that's why I get confused. Am I messing up? So this potato flake sourdough starter, to start your starter, and that's what I was looking for to try to give you this process. But this one starts out with a package of active dry yeast, 1.5 cups of warm water, 3/4 cup of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of instant potato flakes. Now, that is pretty much how I start my quick sourdough yeast rolls. It tells you that you need a 2 to 4 quart jar to put this starter in, and you need to leave it out on the counter for 10 to 12 hours and then put it in the refrigerator. You need to leave it in the refrigerator for at least 3 days before using or to make bread. So then you're going to need to feed this starter. So then to feed that starter, you need a cup of warm water, a 1/2 cup of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of instant potato flakes. You are going to add that in and stir very well, and let sit on the counter all day long, which is what we do to Dorothy. You can make the bread that night and then return the starter to the fridge, and you can make bread every 3 to 5 days. Now, with Dorothy, so I didn't have a starter, original starter. I got a starter already started from my cousin. So she says, and again, this is where I get confused, a cup of starter. So do I take a cup of Dorothy out, feed it, and then use the rest of the starter that's in the picture? Because Dorothy is growing. She's over, she's just over a half a gallon. So to feed Dorothy, it's a cup of sugar, a cup of bread flour sifted, a cup of warm water, 3 tablespoons of potato flakes, and you let sit on the counter all day. The flour is, I know the flour goes in there. Don't get me wrong. I know the flour goes in her when we feed her, but a lot of recipes, the flour is not called for. So I've got to go back and research because I want to be able to tell y'all the correct information. So I feed Dorothy every 3 days. And if this video is confusing, I am so sorry because, yeah, I'm confused as well. So Dorothy sits on the counter all day, and then we're back into the refrigerator at night, and for 3 days. And I just kind of let her hang out. I don't stir. I could. That's optional. That was one thing she told me. Stirring is optional. So I could stir Dorothy. But I feed her every 3 days. But I don't make bread every 3 days. So again, am I getting too much into my container? That's kind of my question. If any of y'all have ever done sourdough, or especially the potato flake sourdough, let me know. Let me in on your little tips and secrets and things like that, because the world of sourdough is confusing. Just that simple. It is very confusing. So I'm going to go over with you what I think, or what I've been doing. Okay, so we feed her every 3 days. So I fed her on Monday, and today is Thursday. So I fed Dorothy this morning, and she is bubbling away. She looks beautiful down in there. She smells divine. So I know she's healthy. And yes, she is growing. So sifted flour, my cousin told me that she sifts her flour because she's noticed if she doesn't sift her flour, it tends to be a little bit more heavy. That's understandable. So we sift our flour. So that's a cup of flour, a cup of hot water, and 3 tablespoons of potato flakes in to feed Dorothy every 3 days. Now, in a previous video, I did do the discard sourdough blueberry muffins. They were great. They were great. Now, again, I have not made bread with Dorothy, but that day is coming very, very soon. And also, can I feed Dorothy, let her sit out all day, put her in the fridge, and the next morning, take a cup of starter out and do a recipe? Or can I only use Dorothy on days that I feed her? More questions that I have. Okay, so to make bread out of Dorothy. Now this is real simple, and I know I have this because this is like my recipe for my yeast rolls. So we take a cup of starter, a half a cup of sugar, a half a cup of oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1.5 cups of warm water, and 3 cups of sifted flour, adding 1 cup of flour at a time. You're going to stir that well. Then you're going to add 2 more cups of sifted flour and stir that really well. By this point, you should have a really good dough. You're going to sprinkle the top with flour and knead the bread. Just kind of make it all come together really smooth. Then you're going to place that into an old bowl, cover with a dish towel, and let it sit on the counter all day and let it rise. Now, this is information from my cousin. This is where it differs a little bit different than my cinnamon rolls, or my yeast rolls. Cinnamon rolls is coming up. So it's going to sit on the counter all day. We're going to knead it again and then separate into 3 loaf pans. We're going to let those 3 loaf pans, loosely covered, like with a dish towel, we're going to let them sit all night. Let them do another rise. And then we're going to bake them the next morning. Now with mine, you know, we only do about an hour rise, and it works out fine. So I have not tried to see what kind of rise we can get out of Dorothy in only an hour. I plan to do cinnamon rolls. That's probably going to be my next video. And again, I apologize for this being so confusing, but starter, sourdough, potato flakes, Amish friendship bread, the list goes on. It's crazy the amount of information out there. Now, I'm going to get better information from my cousin to make sure I am taking good care of Dorothy, because I want her around. Now, I did read that potato flake starter is, you kind of have to keep it fed. Now, and that's another thing. Dorothy gets fed every 3 days. I know I can go up to 7 or 8 days without feeding her, but I read in one article she only feeds hers once every 2 weeks. I also have read that it's not a very good starter to freeze. There's a lot of sourdough bread starters that if you get tired of feeding them or you want to take a break, you just throw them in the freezer. Well, not really this kind. They say it's just not really made for that. And I think it would be easy enough to bring back fresh. So, again, not really good for the freezer. Saying that, the bread can be frozen. So, I could make bread. Not that I have time to make bread every 3 days, but I could make bread and put it in the freezer. Let it thaw. Just keep it in the freezer. And let me tell you, it's wonderful. You warm it up or even toast it, and it is a delicious bread. Now, I'm about to start a journey where I don't really need a whole lot of bread. So this may be kind of a fluke, and I may let my cousin have Dorothy back for a little while until I kind of get where I want to get. We'll see. There are a lot of recipes that I want to try with the sourdough discard. And again, I have to get all of my ducks in a row there to make sure that I'm doing it right. So, sourdough is not as easy as, oh, I'm going to go and do a sourdough recipe. The internet is full of information. People do this differently than other people. And maybe it's different parts of the country. And I know this video is totally confusing, and probably I just need to delete it and go on to something else. But I'm gonna rewatch it and see if I make sense or if I'm just babbling along, and probably that's what I've done. But that's my journey on sourdough. It is definitely a journey. It is not something that's really easy. It's not like I thought it was going to be. Oh, feed it 3 days, make bread, you're done. No, the more I read, the more I get confused. But Dorothy is beautiful. I'm going to show you inside the picture that I have her in. She is bubbling away. She, like I said, she smells great. She's very healthy right now. I just don't want to do anything or mess up anything that's going to cause me to either lose her or we don't want any bad bacteria and stuff to start growing in there either. So there are things that we have to do. But there's going to be information down below. So at the video, there'll be the description of the video and it'll say more. If you'll click on more, it'll do a drop down box and I will have some information there. Now, is it going to be Dorothy? No. I cannot find anything that is like this recipe. So again, is it because of where I am in the country, or does anybody else do it this way? The only one that I'm finding with the potato flakes is it is a potato flake starter. You're feeding water, sugar, potato flakes, and there's no flour going in. And then you're only adding your flour in when you do your bread. So, yeah, it's different. But I'm going to leave you some links below that I have found. If you're interested in looking or starting some sourdough, definitely research. There's a lot out there. And it's not just get in it all willy-nilly and think it's going to be great. This is life. This is real life. This is starting something and then kind of being unsure of where you're at in that process. So I will probably chat again with my cousin to make sure I'm on the right path. Or if I'm not, then I think I have time to correct where I have messed up. Because like I said, she's very healthy. So anyway, that's that. There will be information below. Please read, please research, look and see what sourdough bread would be best for you. Dorothy is a white, very fluffy, very light bread. The yeast rolls are fabulous. The muffins that I did the other day were really good. Probably going to tweak that a little bit. It's a little dry, so maybe, I'm not sure, but there needs to be a little bit of a tweak with the muffins. I have a friend that does the stiff sourdough. You have seen those. We have gotten, some loaves from her, and that is the crusty, chewy type bread, whereas Dorothy is soft. It's a sweeter type bread than just say a bread that you're getting in the grocery store. So, do your research, and it depends on what type of bread you're wanting to make. Are you wanting a sandwich style bread? Are you wanting yeast rolls? Then maybe this would be kind of where you need to start. Are you wanting the crusty, chewy bread that, again, makes some pretty awesome BLTs, but you've got to be prepared for that, because that is a crusty, chewy bread that you're gonna work on a sandwich with. But it would be great for oil dipping, or things like that. So a good crusty bread with a lasagna, that's always good. But do your research and find out what type of bread you think would be best for you. I'm going to work on this and try to get better. And like I said, I'm going to talk to my cousin and see if I have messed up, or am I on the right track. And if I have messed up, then we can correct it. So you might be seeing another sourdough bread update. We'll see. But for now, let me show you the inside of Dorothy. I wish you had smell-o-vision, but Dorothy is bubbling away and doing beautifully. And I can stir her. I want to show you the consistency that she is. Now, I'm not going to disturb her a whole lot, but Dorothy is I would almost say the consistency of pancake batter. You can see how it sticks to the spatula, but yeah, I would definitely say pancake batter is her consistency. But like I said, look at the bubbles. She's doing great. So we shall see. Now, I will say, when Dorothy is out on the counter all day, she is always vented. That way gases can expand and escape. But I have her picture. Can you see right there? It has a vent on the lid. So I'm always, and then the other side is open. But when she goes into the refrigerator, I always make sure I close that. But when she's out on the counter, she is vented. So I have things to learn. So come along this journey and we will try to learn together. I'm going to call my cousin and see if I've messed up. But that's our sourdough journey so far. We're going to keep trying. We're going to make new recipes. See what happens. I appreciate each and every one of you showing up, hanging out, listening to me babble on. Y'all are so very, 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 very much loved and appreciated. Thank you so much. So until next time, I will see you later.